Tonight, federal agents have exposed a money laundering empire connecting Minnesota fraud to Venezuelan cartels. Billions in stolen assets recovered.
3:47 a.m. Laredo, Texas. The Rio Grande corridor lies under a blanket of humid darkness. Temperature hovers at 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind cuts across empty loading docks. Somewhere on the south side of Interstate 35, a row of commercial warehouses sits silent behind chain-link fencing topped with razor wire. Tonight, those warehouses belong to the federal government. 142 agents from the FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security Investigations converge on the facility in a synchronized column of black Suburbans and armored tactical vehicles. They kill their headlights 2 blocks out. Boots hit gravel. A breaching team stacks at the main cargo door. A steel roll-up rated for semi-truck access. The ram strikes once. The lock shatters. Alarms scream. Flashlight beams cut through the interior like surgical instruments. Illuminating rows of shrink-wrapped pallets stacked floor to ceiling. What they find will rewrite the map of cartel logistics in the United States. $4.7 billion in narcotics, cash, and trafficking infrastructure. A pipeline spanning 63 warehouses across Texas, California, and Illinois. Enough fentanyl to kill every resident of Houston 11 times over. Enough methamphetamine to flood the American heartland for a decade. The man at the center of this empire is not a cartel boss operating from a Sinaloa compound. He is a U.S. citizen, a licensed freight broker with active contracts servicing Home Depot, Amazon third-party logistics, and regional grocery chains. His trucks cross state lines legally every single day. For 26 months, a joint federal task force had been watching him. The investigation did not begin with a wiretap or a confidential informant. It began with a single K-9 alert during a routine commercial vehicle inspection at a way station outside El Paso. If you want the full truth behind this operation, hit like so. This story reaches more people. The operation had a code name, Operation Iron Corridor. For 26 months, investigators across 3 federal agencies had been assembling the architecture of a trafficking network so deeply embedded in American commerce that it was functionally invisible. To understand how they dismantled it, we go back to where it started. March 14, 2024, 9:42 p.m. A commercial way station on Interstate 10, 11 miles east of El Paso, Texas. A white Freightliner cab pulling a 53-foot refrigerated trailer rolls onto the scale. The driver is Carlos Vega, 31. IACDL licensed hauler employed by Lone Star Express Freight, a mid-size logistics company based in San Antonio. His manifest lists frozen produce bound for a distribution center in Dallas. Everything checks out on paper. Texas Department of Public Safety Officer Ryan Holman approaches the cab for a standard compliance inspection. A K-9 unit working the station that night, a Belgian Malinois named Coda, circles the trailer. Coda sits. That is the signal. Officer Holman calls for backup. When agents open the rear doors, they find the produce. But behind the first 2 rows of pallets, stacked in vacuum-sealed black duffel bags concealed within hollowed-out crates of frozen bell peppers, they recover 220 pounds of methamphetamine and 48 pounds of fentanyl. Field purity tests come back at 96% for the fentanyl. Street value, $14.8 million. Vega's hands tremble against the steering wheel. His eyes keep cutting to his phone on the passenger seat. The report landed on the desk of DEA Special Agent in Charge Patricia Langford within 6 hours. Within 36 hours, a joint task force was formed. DEA, FBI, and HSI pooling resources under a single federal directive. Phone records pulled from Vega's device revealed 1,400 calls and encrypted messages to 19 different numbers across 4 states. Financial subpoenas uncovered wire transfers totaling $2.1 million in just 7 months. This was not a drug bust. This was the edge of a continent-spanning machine. If this shocks you, comment exposed below. But the traffic stop was only the surface. What federal agents found when they cracked open the financial records would reveal an empire hiding in plain sight. The subpoenas came fast. Federal prosecutors in the Western District of Texas issued 14 financial subpoenas within the first 3 weeks. What came back rewrote every assumption investigators had made about the network's scale. Lone Star Express Freight, The company that employed Carlos Vega was not a trucking company that occasionally moved drugs. It was a drug pipeline that occasionally moved freight. Incorporated in Texas in 2019, the company listed assets of $3.2 million. But bank records told a different story. Across 22 accounts held in 6 states, $187 million had moved through Lone Star's financial architecture in under 2 years. No freight company with 38 trucks generates that kind of revenue. The money moved through a cascade of shell entities: Iron Ridge Holdings LLC, registered in Wyoming; Pacifica Trade Solutions, incorporated in Nevada; Great Plains Distributing Inc., filed in Delaware with a registered agent who operated out of a mailbox store in Wilmington. From there, funds were routed through accounts in the Cayman Islands, Panama City, and Dubai. Transfers were methodical. $8,700 here, $9,400 there. Always under the $10,000 reporting threshold. Structured to perfection. For 11 weeks, agents watched. DEA surveillance teams deployed unmarked vehicles, utility pole cameras, and GPS tracking devices authorized under Title III warrants. They observed a pattern so disciplined it resembled military logistics. Every Tuesday and Thursday night between 1 and 3 a.m., refrigerated trailers arrived at a warehouse complex on the south side of San Antonio. The trailers were met by teams of 4 to 6 men who unloaded cargo into the facility. The entire process took less than 40 minutes. The trailers departed before dawn. The men drove separate vehicles, never the same car twice. Agents identified Michael Trevino, 38, as the on-site logistics coordinator. Trevino had no criminal record. He held a Texas real estate license and owned a barber shop in New Braunfels. Surveillance footage captured him directing unloading operations with a clipboard and radio. He made deliveries in a white cargo van to apartment complexes in Austin and Houston, staying less than 5 minutes at each stop. The network map expanded. One company, Pacifica Trade Solutions, claimed to import industrial cleaning supplies from manufacturers in Guadalajara. Customs records showed shipments arriving at the port of Long Beach, California. But the listed manufacturers did not exist, or payments routed through Panama, Guadalajara, and Houston. The amounts were surgical: $8,950, $9,200, $7,800, always beneath the radar. Investigators had uncovered a $4.7 billion cartel logistics pipeline camouflaged inside the legitimate American freight industry. It operated across 3 time zones, employed over 300 people, and had been running undetected for 6 years. Type yes if you are ready to see what happened next. The first search warrants were executed on June 3, 2024, targeting a 12,000-square-foot warehouse on Ackerman Road in South San Antonio. From the outside, the facility looked like every other commercial storage unit on the block. A beige metal building with a loading dock and a faded sign reading LSE Freight Storage. Agents from DEA and HSI entered with a federal warrant at 6:15 a.m. Inside the main bay, they found pallets of legitimate frozen goods: chicken, produce, dairy, standard inventory for a cold chain logistics company. But behind a reinforced steel door disguised as an electrical utility panel, agents discovered a secondary chamber. The room measured 40 by 25 feet, climate-controlled. Inside, 1,100 pounds of methamphetamine in vacuum-sealed bricks, 340 pounds of fentanyl, and $6.4 million in U.S. currency bundled in heat-sealed plastic and stacked inside commercial freezer units. A digital scale, a heat-sealing machine, and 15 prepaid phones were recovered from a workbench against the far wall. The technological sophistication escalated from there. Forensic analysts examined 4 laptops seized from the warehouse office. Each was loaded with encrypted communication software: Signal, Wicker, and a proprietary messaging application routed through servers in Eastern Europe. One laptop contained a spreadsheet tracking 19 months of shipments. Origin points in Sinaloa and Jalisco, transit through Laredo and Nogales, final destinations in Dallas, Chicago, Phoenix, and Los Angeles. The spreadsheet listed quantities, payment dates, and driver codes. Agents matched 47 driver codes to active CDL holders employed by Lone Star Express Freight and 3 affiliated carriers. A second laptop held something investigators did not expect: A folder labeled Compliance contained scanned documents showing payments to public officials. A county building inspector in Bexar County, Texas, $15,000 to overlook zoning violations at 3 warehouse properties. There was a commercial vehicle enforcement officer stationed at a weigh station on I-35, $8,000 per month to ensure specific trailers were waved through without inspection. A logistics coordinator at a major national retail chain, $22,000 to authorize fraudulent shipment manifests that gave cartel trucks legitimate delivery appointments at distribution centers. The corruption was not incidental. It was a line item in the budget, engineered, recurring, and documented with the precision of a Fortune 500 accounts payable department. If you believe this needs to be exposed, hit like now. At the center of Operation Iron Corridor stood one name, Derek Rawlins, 44, born in Corpus Christi, Texas. On paper, Rawlins was a self-made logistics entrepreneur. He founded Lone Star Express Freight in 2019 with a $400,000 SBA loan. He attended industry conferences, and he sponsored a Little League team in San Antonio. He drove a white Ford F-250 and lived in a 4-bedroom house in Alamo Heights. His company's website featured testimonials from satisfied retail clients. His LinkedIn profile listed memberships in the Texas Trucking Association and the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. In reality, Rawlins was the primary U.S.-side logistics architect for a Sinaloa-affiliated cartel cell operating across 3 states. He controlled routing, warehousing, distribution scheduling, and payroll for over 300 individuals, drivers, warehouse workers, lookouts, and financial intermediaries. Federal investigators estimated his personal share of the pipeline's revenue at $74 million over 4 years. He owned properties in San Antonio, Scottsdale, and South Padre Island, valued at $11.3 million total. For 3 of those properties were purchased through Shell LLCs using laundered cartel funds. Beneath Rawlins operated a tight command structure. Michael Trevino, 38, managed San Antonio warehouse operations and local distribution. Sandra Ellison, 41, a CPA based in Houston, ran the financial laundering network through 7 shell companies she had personally incorporated. Victor Lozano, 52, coordinated cross-border shipment logistics from a ranch property outside Laredo, scheduling trailer movements to align with shift changes at border checkpoints. Brian Kessler, 36, a former IT contractor, built and maintained the encrypted communications infrastructure, administering servers and distributing burner devices to network members. Rawlins had weaponized the American supply chain. His trucks shared highways with school buses and commuter traffic. His warehouses sat in commercial districts beside legitimate businesses. The camouflage was total. September 17, 2024. FBI Strategic Operations Command Center, San Antonio Field Office. A wall of monitors displays satellite imagery, real-time GPS feeds, and digital floor plans of 63 warehouse locations across Texas, California, and Illinois. Red markers pulse on the screen, each one a target. 438 federal agents from the FBI, DEA, HSI, ATF, and U.S. Marshals Service sit in briefing rooms across 7 cities, receiving final operational packets. The execution order is issued at 3:15 a.m. Central Time. At 4 a.m., federal tactical teams launch simultaneously. At 4:02 a.m., the primary strike team hits Derek Rawlins' residence in Alamo Heights, San Antonio. Mi-16 agents in full tactical gear approach the front and rear entries. The battering ram strikes the reinforced front door twice. Breach. Agents flood the foyer. FBI search warrant, hands where we can see them. Rawlins is found in a second-floor bedroom, sitting on the edge of his bed in gym shorts, a phone in each hand. One phone is later found to contain a partially composed encrypted message reading, "Move everything south tonight. Burn the Austin books." He does not resist. He does not speak. Agents recover $380,000 in cash from a floor safe in the master closet, along with 3 firearms, 2 encrypted laptops, and a ledger documenting payments to 14 individuals identified only by code names. Simultaneously, at a warehouse complex on South Alameda Street in Los Angeles, I-34 HSI agents breach 3 connected units leased under Pacifica Trade Solutions. The units are listed as cold storage for imported seafood. Inside, agents find no seafood. They find 2,200 pounds of methamphetamine, 410 pounds of fentanyl pressed into counterfeit oxycodone tablets, and a pill press capable of producing 10,000 tablets per hour. Street value of the narcotics, $93 million. 4 workers inside are detained. None carry identification. Simultaneously, at a trucking yard outside Joliet, Illinois, 28 FBI agents execute warrants on a dispatch office operated by Great Plains Distributing, Inc. The office contains routing software tracking 22 active trailers across 11 states. A back room holds $1.7 million in bundled cash, 3 AR-15-style rifles, and a server rack running the network's encrypted messaging platform. Brian Kessler, and the network's IT architect, is arrested at his apartment in Naperville 40 minutes later. He attempts to destroy a laptop by submerging it in his bathtub. Digital forensics teams recover the hard drive intact. By 7:30 a.m. Central Time, the operation is complete. 63 warehouses seized across 3 states, 214 individuals arrested, 18,600 pounds of methamphetamine recovered. 4,100 pounds of fentanyl recovered, $47.3 million in cash seized, 122 vehicles, including 58 semi-trucks, 14 refrigerated trailers, and 50 personal vehicles, impounded. 19 commercial properties placed under federal asset forfeiture proceedings. DEA Administrator James Calloway addressed the press at 11 a.m. This was not a drug ring. This was a logistics corporation built to poison American communities on an industrial scale. Today, had we shut it down? Comment justice if you believe they deserved what came next. The evidence catalog filled 14 federal transport vehicles. DEA forensic teams spent 19 days processing seizures from all 63 locations. Total narcotics recovered: 18,600 pounds of methamphetamine with an average purity of 97%, 4,100 pounds of fentanyl, approximately 930 million lethal doses, 1,400 pounds of cocaine, 220 pounds of heroin. Combined street value, $4.7 billion. Cash seized totaled $47.3 million, stored in freezer units, false bottom crates, and vacuum-sealed bags hidden inside pallets of frozen food. Denominations were predominantly 20s and 100s. Agents recovered 38 firearms across all locations, including 6 assault-style rifles, 4 shotguns, and 28 handguns. 3 weapons had obliterated serial numbers. 7 body armor vests were found in the Joliet dispatch office. Digital forensics proved equally devastating. Brian Kessler's recovered laptop contained the master encryption keys for the network's communications platform. Analysts decrypted 43,000 messages spanning 14 months. One exchange between Rawlins and Lozano read, "Tuesday shipment confirmed, 800 units through Laredo. Inspector handled." A separate thread documented payments to the Bexar County building inspector. $15,000 wired, next inspection scheduled for Skip. Sandra Ellison's Houston office yielded 7 years of financial records across 22 shell companies. Total documented money movement, $1.2 billion. Funds had been laundered through commercial real estate purchases, used car dealerships, and cryptocurrency conversions routed through exchanges in Singapore and the United Arab Emirates. A single encrypted folder on Rawlins' personal laptop, labeled Atlas, contained distribution maps covering 31 U.S. cities, client lists with over 900 names, and a projection spreadsheet forecasting $780 million in revenue for the next fiscal year. The cartel was not just operating, it was scaling. Share this so more people understand what was almost lost. But the numbers did not capture the real damage. Beyond the evidence rooms and the courtrooms, the real cost was measured in lives destroyed. Brandon Ellis, 28, an electrician from suburban San Antonio, had been clean for 2 years. He was engaged. He had just started his own contracting business. In January 2024, a back injury from a job site left him in severe pain. A coworker sold him what appeared to be a prescription OxyContin tablet. It was a counterfeit pill pressed with fentanyl, manufactured on the pill press recovered from the Los Angeles warehouse. Brandon took one pill before bed. His fiancée, Laura, found him unresponsive at 6:15 a.m. He was pronounced dead at University Hospital. The medical examiner confirmed cause of death, acute fentanyl poisoning. He was 90 days from his wedding. The pill came from Derek Rawlins' network. Ashley Medina, 34, was a night shift nurse at a hospital in Tucson, Arizona. She was a mother of 2. She had never used recreational drugs. A friend gave her what she believed was a Percocet for migraine relief after a 14-hour shift. It was a counterfeit tablet containing a lethal concentration of fentanyl. Then Ashley collapsed in her car in the hospital parking garage. A security guard found her. Paramedics could not revive her. Her children, ages 6 and 9, now live with their grandmother. Across the communities where Rawlins' network operated, legitimate trucking companies faced audits, contract cancellations, and public suspicion. Industry leaders held emergency meetings. They condemned the exploitation of their infrastructure. Trust had been weaponized and shattered. If this makes you angry, comment, "Never again" below. February 10th, 2025. Federal Courthouse, San Antonio, Texas. Derek Rawlins enters the courtroom in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed at his waist, flanked by 2 U.S. Marshals. His hair is shorter than in his LinkedIn photo. His expression is flat. The gallery is packed. Federal agents, journalists, families of overdose victims, and members of the Texas trucking industry. The indictment reads 47 counts. Conspiracy to distribute controlled substances in violation of 21 U.S.C. Section 846. Money laundering conspiracy under 18 U.S.C. Section 1956. Operation of a continuing criminal enterprise under 21 U.S.C. Section 848. RICO conspiracy, bribery of public officials, and structuring financial transactions to evade reporting requirements. Rawlins' defense team argues he was a legitimate businessman exploited by cartel operatives who infiltrated his company without his knowledge. Prosecutors dismantle this claim in 90 minutes, presenting the Atlas file, encrypted messages in Rawlins' own voice, and financial records showing $74 million in personal enrichment routed through shell companies he personally registered. The jury deliberates for 4 hours and 12 minutes, and guilty on all 47 counts. U.S. District Judge Catherine Morales sentences Rawlins to life in federal prison without the possibility of parole plus forfeiture of all assets. "You did not stumble into crime," Judge Morales states. "You built an empire of death with the precision of an engineer and the conscience of a predator." The sentencing cascade follows. Sandra Ellison, 32 years, conspiracy to launder monetary instruments, forfeiture of $11.4 million. Michael Trevino, 28 years, conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine and fentanyl. Victor Lozano, 35 years, continuing criminal enterprise and bribery. Brian Kessler, 22 years, conspiracy and obstruction of justice for attempted evidence destruction. 197 additional defendants plead guilty or are convicted at trial. Sentences range from 5 to 40 years. And total asset forfeiture across the network, $263 million in real estate, vehicles, accounts, and cryptocurrency holdings. All pensions revoked, all professional licenses stripped. In the wake of Operation Iron Corridor, the Department of Justice announced enhanced freight industry screening protocols, mandatory electronic logging cross-referencing for commercial carriers flagged in narcotics investigations, and a new interagency task force dedicated to cartel infiltration of U.S. supply chains. Texas passed legislation requiring annual financial audits of commercial freight companies operating more than 20 vehicles. California launched a port inspection overhaul targeting fraudulent import manifests. The Bexar County building inspector and the I-35 way station officer both face separate federal corruption charges. But the investigation is not over. Victor Lozano's communication records reference a figure identified only as El Arquitecto, a senior cartel coordinator believed to operate from Guadalajara. That individual has never been identified. Intelligence analysts estimate at least 8 similar logistics networks remain active inside the United States, embedded in legitimate industries from agriculture to medical supply distribution. 3 are believed to operate in the Midwest. The most dangerous threat is not at the border. It is already inside, wearing a polo shirt, driving a company truck, delivering poison on a commercial invoice. Comment your thoughts below. Hit like so this story breaks through algorithms. Share this with anyone who believes the system will protect them without accountability. We are currently investigating a similar network operating out of the port of Savannah, Georgia. If you want us to expose them next, subscribe.